Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We do business for just about 30 minutes before we head back to the Sunrise Daily studio. John McQuarrie will start usually from the global space. We tell you oil prices edge high on Thursday from two-week lows, with investors eyeing development in the Middle East and more details on China's stimulus plans, as well as the release of official U.S. oil inventory data. Keeping our eyes on the number, we see 17 cents added to Brent in the last couple of hours, and that's about 0.2%, bringing it to $74.39. You would notice that we've been on $74 most of this week, so there's been a kind of stability, while our WTI is 0.3% in the green, $70.58 a barrel. And yes, a bit of stability there coming even from the Middle East, but investors are keeping their eyes on the numbers, inventories number coming from the United States, which is expected to be later on today. We believe that can move the market one way or the other because risk premium has cooled. Fears easing on that fear of retaliatory attack. We're still in the oil and gas space, but here in Nigeria, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, they say that they've resolved the dispute that they had with the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, over the price of premium motor spirit, that's petrol. The resolution, which is confirmed by the national president of IPMAN, Abubakar Garima, it was done yesterday in Abuja, follows an intervention by the Director General of the Department of State Services and includes a price reduction of PMS from 1,030 naira to 995 naira in Lagos and other states. I beg you want to ask the question, is subsidy now introduced here? Who's bearing the cost? Well, IPMAN has also announced plans to lift PMS directly from Dangote Refinery following successful negotiations facilitated by the DSS, and they say that they've inaugurated a national monitoring surveillance team to combat illegal oil bunkering, smuggling, pipeline vandalism, and other adulteration of petroleum products. As we know, these have contributed largely to the reduction in our crude production and also revenue that is accrued to the nation. Look at naira now. We see depreciation in the market for both NFEM and NAFEX. 0.04 reduction for NFEM, and I believe that's about 72 kobo. So not so much. We see closing at 1,659.69 kobo, while for NAFEX it's bigger than that, so 0.97%. To close at 1,501 naira 12 kobo, but the difference there not so much, even though we know to keep our eyes on the NFEM. That's where you have a bulk of activities when it comes to the currency. Wonder if there'll be a CBN intervention today, but I guess there's a bit of stability, so we may not expect that. But we've lost that 1,005, which has been our resistance point for a bit. Now, in response to growing financial strain on Nigerians caused by high energy and transportation costs, the Ministry of Finance incorporated Credico, also the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation, and the Presidential Initiative on CNG, PICNG Limited. They've joined forces to launch a total of 10 billion naira credit access for light and mobility fund for Nigerians. They call it CALM. The new fund, which commences with 2.5 billion naira, aims to provide affordable credit for Nigerians to obtain CNG conversion kits and other energy-saving solutions, making essential services more accessible to Nigerians while promoting sustainability. The fund will enable Nigerians to obtain loans through participating financial institutions, providing a pathway to sustainable energy without the financial burden of upfront costs. Therefore, Nigerians are encouraged to explore this opportunity by applying for CALM Fund loans through participating financial institutions. Or you can log on to www.creditco.ng. That's creditco.ng for more information. But we'll stay on the oil and gas and issues around there now in our Commodities segment with Dr. Ifeoma Nwokolo, Research Manager with Financial Derivatives Company, joins us virtually from Victoria Island. Dr. Nwokolo, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So we see reports that the import of PMS has reduced. I wonder, is it because Nigerians are beginning to adopt the CNG we just talked about with some incentives coming with it, or is it because of the production from Dangote refinery?
Okay, from what we see so far, I would say it's from production from Dangote refinery. It seems that like the sector is beginning to move towards self-sufficiency. That's what we are beginning to observe now. Because ordinarily, we usually import about 1.3 million barrels per week, which amounts to about 206 million liters. And today, last week, we observed that we imported just about 4.2 million liters, which is about 77% lower than what we usually import. So we gave it to Dangote refinery. Honestly, Dangote refinery produces about 650,000 barrels per day, which amounts to 103 million liters. And when you multiply by 7 per week, we have about 723 million liters, which is massive, even higher than what we usually import. So I think the massive production of Dangote refinery has brought about a decline, and is a plus to us because it's going to bring down the pressure on the forest markets, because there will be no much pressure on sourcing for effects for importation of petroleum. Also, it's going to kind of increase the capacity of our local refineries, and is a wake-up call to other refineries. If I'm not mistaken, we have about 7 modular refineries and other refineries to wake up. We can do this, we can produce more and even export to boost our foreign earnings. And also it's going to reduce what we call the import costs, because importation comes with costs. So when the import costs increase, in the short or medium term, begin to see that the price of petrol will stabilize or even decrease. Then coupled with the fact that it is going to reduce the incidence of fuel scarcity. If you look at the trend, every 2-3 months, we are seeing petrol scarcity and the rest. What I think is the Dangote refinery that is doing this. Thank you.
Yeah, but you know, there are some issues also coming up even with the Dangote refinery, the issues around infrastructure, monopoly. If anything happens on that road, that could disrupt supply. So I still hear a little bit of importation going on. I wonder if you've heard anything about that, importation of PMS in spite of this, just to give more security of energy to Nigerians.
Yeah, I would say that the issue of infrastructure has to be fixed if this must work, either via pipelines or something. So it has to be done, and must be collaboration between Dangote refinery and the government. They can do it so that this can have quick access to their buyers, rather than having these heavy trucks on the road, which will, at the end of the day, destroy the roads, what we are seeing today. So it's important this is done. And it's also important that the issue of monopoly is not even supposed to complete. We'll have other refineries, like I said earlier, is a wake-up call to other refineries. And other refineries that are not functioning, government should make do to sell them out to, interested buyers who want to buy this refinery, so that the issue of monopoly can be ruled out.
Yeah, well, I wonder if investors will really find it attractive at this stage, But there's also another related issue, which is the Shell deal. We hear it's been blocked. Do you have details? Have you heard anything?
Okay, for the Shell deal, which was rejected by the regulatory bodies. In fact, these regulatory bodies know the capacity of each sector or each of these refineries So they know that the consortium or the group that wants to acquire this particular asset do not have the capacity to do that. So according to them, they cannot even manage up to 50%. They can barely manage up to 50% of their own assets effectively. So how do you think they will be able to manage the almighty Shell? Shell is a mega market when it comes to petroleum in Nigeria. So how do you think this particular consortium or group can manage this asset? So I think they are aimed towards the part of caution, in the sense that they want to avoid potential financial risk at the end of the day. We don't want any shoe to fall on us. Avoid the case of maybe dragging Nigeria at the end of the day if this contract between them, there's a flaw in the contract. So to avoid what happened during the African free trade, China-African free trade and Ogun State. I know what happened to Nigeria, the way Nigeria was dragged, assets were seized. So I think they are aimed towards, yes, caution. And most importantly, I begin to see that these regulatory bodies, I begin to see the importance of our regulatory environment, because there is need to stringently scrutinize this particular body that wants to buy, to ensure that they have the capacity or the ability to acquire this significant asset. Shell assets is a very significant asset which must be well managed and managed effectively. So I think that is why they are stepping it down.
All right. Let's look at commodities now, especially with the reduction in imports of PMS. The impact, what are we seeing with price of commodities? I think we have some of them right here. Yes, we know that inflation increased for September, but when we look at domestic commodity prices, it's mixed. We still have the harvest season, but we have the naira depreciation also as a factor. So I guess that prices are mixed right here. You have more details on those, the price of commodities, domestic commodities.
Yeah, in domestic commodities, we have mixed prices. To be honest with you, prices that are declining are prices of perishable commodities, tomatoes, pepper, onion. But when you come to other commodities, you begin to see that even though we are in harvest season, prices of yam, potato are beginning to increase. You see the price of rice going as high, that's long grain rice going as high as 120,000 per bag. A bag of beans, 120,000. This tells us that the hike in the price of petroleum is beginning to have a pass-through effect on the logistics costs, on transportation, and this has begun to exert what we call an upward pressure on food prices. And we begin to see it begin to overshadow the benefits we are supposed to have during harvest season. We are not seeing that benefit because it's already overshadowed by high prices. And we're going to see prices increase further because already we're in the ember month, and it's expected that commodity prices will begin to increase for Christmas season. And also the weak naira is also playing a role here because importation is going to be quite expensive because of the weak naira, and this will pass through, have a pass-through effect on prices. So even though the importation of petroleum has declined, we are not going to see, it does not result to a decline in the price of petroleum. No.
Yeah, it's just availability. Maybe, I guess we should just celebrate the availability first. Exactly. And we can talk about affordability later. Thank you so much, Dr. Ifeoma Nwokolo, Research Manager at Financial Derivatives Company.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so yesterday we did have that conversation about bridging findings and innovations from the academics to reality, implementation. We had that conversation on a fair that's coming on soon with Tfund. Let's recap that a bit and then we will settle on it after this.
In our country, this knowledge resource, this capacities that we have, we're not mining it very, very well. I can honestly tell you for free that if you go to any first-generation university, Ahmadu Bello University, University of Ibadan, and so on and so forth, and you ask them within the 10-year period, for the last 10-year period, show me the number of papers or reports, conference presentations, journal publications that you have done over these years, it probably would fill a lecture theater. But if you ask the question, out of all this knowledge, how much of it is helping our farmers to produce better? How much of it is encouraging dairy farming in Nigeria? How much of it is making young people manufacture equipment to power small-scale farms, like was being discussed? Then you start getting questions. This connection is the difference between industrialized countries and developing countries. And this is what Tfund deliberately wants to crack and create that linkage. That valley of death, we have to build the bridge.
So there you have it, Tfund Fair coming on soon. So, you know, there are two sides to it. So there's the academics, those who do the innovation, the research and the innovation, and then bringing the investors right there. And Tfund is standing in between. So now let's talk bringing, well, you saw them 2 days ago, winners of the Nigeria LNG Prize for Science 2024. Please do come in, Enioko and Olajide Titoji. No longer visitors. This is the second time we're having you this week.
Yes,
but I wonder if you know about that Tfund Fair, because they're referring to, obviously, people like you, your work, coming from the universities and the polytechnics, but actually making a difference in real life.
Yeah.
Let's start with you. I think you.
Well, I would say Tfund is not, if anybody that is in the research space, I think Tfund is not a new thing. You will have heard about them because they do a lot of sponsoring of Nigerian lecturers to study in the UK and other parts of the world. And I believe they've been doing a very fantastic work. As regards what Tfund is trying to do, I think they are trying to bring researchers and innovations all across the country to maybe Abuja for a period of 12 months for what they call a Tfund Fair. So, which is, I believe, is a very good thing. At least they are championing and trying to bring everybody together to see that they are doing something that can benefit the country. But what I would think, or I would advise, is that after Abuja, after the 12-month program, what comes next? It shouldn't just be 12 months, then everybody should go back home. So, because research is a continuing thing, it's something you look at 12 months, after 12 months, maybe 2 years, what is our goal, what do we aim to achieve, and down the line like that. And maybe not only in Abuja alone, because everybody cannot just live there, every part of the country, and go to Abuja and stay in Abuja for 12 months. Maybe you can have 6 geopolitical zones to start with, maybe some in Lagos, in Abuja, or in Port Harcourt, or in Kano, so that every researchers in other parts of the country can also be a part of this. And it's not just everybody traveling to Abuja to stay for 12 months. Two things, beyond 12 months, what are they trying to do? And try to make as much as possible to see that these things are also replicated in other geopolitical zones so that it can go further to other researchers that might be in those areas. All
right, Annie. Well, I mean, you're asking for more, but at least you have the attention of the Nigerian energy, which is why you're here as winners of the 2024 Science Prize for Science. Now you have Tfund. Do you, as someone from the academics, do you feel that your research, your work, your innovations, do you feel that perhaps you're beginning to get attention that might eventually lead to you making impact in the Nigerian economy?
Yes, 100%. Just to add a little more before I come to your question, the Tfund Fair, it's a brilliant program. From my understanding, it's some sort of training to help provide innovators with the various skills to be able to advance their development to the marketplace. And they are targeting primarily the innovators that their innovations are already close to the market.
like yours.
Yeah.
I mean, for you to have won the LNG, I believe that you have created something that has made a great impression.
Yes.
So I guess you could also participate in that with your innovation.
Yes, we can participate in that quite all right. But I think our innovation has two parts. One part is closer to the market, and the other part not so close to the market. Okay, so it's, if you combine that in terms of readiness level, it's maybe at readiness level 5, and still a lot still needs to get into it before the entire chain of the technology can be available in the marketplace. The Tfund Fair, it's a program that I believe should be integrated within the institutions, within the universities, at institutional level. Innovators, researchers at different levels of development should be able to access this type of training. It should not just be for people that their innovations are already very close to the market.
Okay.
And the other point is that, like in the UK, the Research Council used to have this emphasis on what they call high risk, high reward research. What that means is that there are some research that are high risk. High risk being that the chances of success is low, but if you do succeed, the reward will be enormous. Okay? So sometimes as researchers at the point of starting off, you are not thinking about the market so much. You are thinking about making it work in the first place. Once we can make the technology work, and then we can now think about bringing all the people that will have the skills to actually then scale the system or technology from that point to the point where it becomes available in the market. And it's for that reason that something like the Tfund Fair program should be integrated at the institutional level and should be ongoing. Not
okay,
just
not a one-off. They had promised that it's not a one-off.
Okay.
But let's not forget, I mean, for some of our viewers who didn't watch on Tuesday, to know that you are both winners. You're actually 3 winners of the 2024 edition of the Prize for Science, organized by the Nigeria LNG Limited. Congratulations. I had asked you on Tuesday what you do with the money, but I've not gotten any response. We'll leave it at that. But do tell us, for our viewers who didn't watch on Tuesday, tell us about your innovation. We know it's connected to carbon capture and fuel production. And, Nigerians, and when we hear fuel, we think of petrol. And it's a big deal for us now. So tell us about your innovation.
So our innovation, it's a carbon capture, essentially capturing carbon from the emission sources. This could be power plants, this could be industries, and converting the carbon to fuel. The key innovation areas, because it's called carbon capture and utilization. It wasn't invented by us, by the way. But the key areas of innovation for us is actually the specific equipment that are used for this, the specific equipment type that is used for the capturing of the carbon, and the equipment type that is used for converting the captured carbon to fuel.
What kind of fuel?
So the fuel we are looking at in our development is methanol, okay, all right? And the idea is that methanol is an industrial chemical that is used as a building block for many products that we see around, and that methanol can also be used for diesel replacement, fuel replacement. What it means is that we could replace up to 20% of diesel with methanol, and then you will still be able to use the mixture in your traditional diesel engine systems without needing to modify the engine. So our core target of our development is produce methanol and use methanol for fuel replacement, diesel precisely.
All right, Lajide, tell us what stage you are at now and what's the plan for the future, and what Nigeria LNG is, where they are in that value chain.
Well, the stage, like we mentioned here on Tuesday, that the research is continuous, and Dr. Enim do mention that we are currently still working in developing the technology. Just like he mentioned, there is a grant that he will be leading and in further developing this technology. And actually, there is a Nigerian university that is involved, Afebabalola University, just as he mentioned. So we are still working, and on the other sideline too, we are working with Total Energies also as regards in Total Energy France, as regarding deploying this technology in one of their offshore facility in France. So the research is continuous, and we are continuing to develop it. As regards LNG, I think LNG has done a very wonderful job in giving us the visibility, in giving this project a visibility, in giving us individuals, researchers, the visibility that we need. And I believe, like, what they have is they have this continuous engagement with their the past winners. So, which we believe that even though we are winners now, there is still continuous engagement with LLNG. They organize workshop. I believe that we will still be coming to speak and to also do some other engagement with LLNG. So there is a continuous interaction between us and LLNG.
Do we have any timeline? Is it possible to have a timeline of, when we can actually see the results of this research and your interaction with, the investors?
Well, I think that is a very hard question to answer. To say, next year or 2 years to come, I think that is I don't know exactly if I can answer that.
Because if you're signing a contract, you have timelines.
Yes.
Well,
you don't just leave it open forever.
To just step in for him, like I mentioned to you, there are two major pieces of equipment that's involved in our innovation. The first part of the equipment is already very close to the market. The second part of the equipment is not so close to the market. As I've mentioned, we have a grant that is going towards this development. This grant is going to be over a period of 4 years. So hopefully, if we get the results that we are expecting for the field testing.
Within that 4 years?
Yes, within that 4 years. If we get the results that we are testing from the testing that is going to be undertaken during the course of the project, then beyond that point, we are actually going to potentially see field testing for the system.
Mm-hmm. And so after the field testing, that's when it can get into the market.
So after the field testing, and you hit the performance target, essentially, then you could potentially progress to the marketplace.
Would that be for commercial? I know you mentioned methane is for converting to methanol, I beg your pardon. So would that be for the industrialists and not for domestic?
Well, methanol, as I've said, it's used for diesel replacement. So essentially, you just mix this fuel with diesel, essentially, so that you now have around 28% of methanol in your diesel mix. All right, and that can be used for people that use diesel generators. That can be used at home,
and to reduce costs.
Yes, and that can also be used by the HGV, heavy goods vehicles. All right, essentially any engine whatsoever that runs on diesel will be able to use this system.
You wanted to add something?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, I have to thank you both for coming a second time this week, Dr. Eni Oko and Olajide Otitoju. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very much for having us.
For being winners of the 2024 edition of the prize.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you so much.
All right, so 2 winners there. So it's always good to connect the talks to the works, so that we understand the essence of it. So just before we get back to the Sunrise Daily Studio, let's see a bit of market numbers for yesterday. There you have it. Negative close again yesterday, 0.25% down, but even we're still at 59 trillion, and the market shaved off 148. So far, I believe the NGX is cruising in the red zone for the week. I wonder what miracle can happen, seeing that today is Thursday and then it's just tomorrow, Friday. But anything can happen in the market. But the listing of Aradel obviously moved the market from Monday, but that steam has dried off at this time. We'll give you more numbers. Very red market, there you have it. But we'll give you fresh numbers at 1 p.m. Business Incorporated. I'll be back to do 55 minutes of business with intraday numbers and some other very important conversations. We're still celebrating World Food Day. We'll get another perspective to that at 1 p.m. Do join me then. But for now, I hand you over to Chamberlain, Malpe, and Ayo.